Hey guys, it's Eclipse here, and today we take a look at one of the most broken tanks on World of Tanks, yeah, that is basically this video. What is this tank? Well, it is the Object 279E, and, well, it certainly is one of the more broken tanks within the PC version of World of Tanks, but is it as good as it is on PC in console? And of course we're going to have a look at that today. Now, first things first, what actually does this tank offer? Well, it is the fact that it doesn't have a lower plate. It genuinely doesn't have a lower plate. It's all an upper plate. It has 4 tracks as well, so you basically have this thing whereby if someone tries to shoot you in the lower plate, it basically just tracks you. Yes, you can be tracked multiple times, which means that yes, it can take ages to be able to fully repair your tracks, but the good thing about this, of course, is that you don't get penned very reliably, at least when people fire standard rounds. Now, we'll talk about that in just a second. But Object 279E, what is the armor model kind of favour? What does it do? Well, if you can manage to get hold down, or at least hide the underside of your tank, because that is the weak point of the Object 279E, and of course if someone like a Jaeger decides to get a heat round loaded in their tank to be able to just go through pretty much anywhere on your tank. Now you see where we've taken this tank, well, because of that underside, what we want to do is basically try and angle the tank so that the upper plate becomes more angled, but also hides the lower bit of the tank. So if we can get it on a ridgeline, or be able to just kind of push ourselves into a position that favours the underside, and where people aren't going to be able to shoot up into the underside of a tank, but also that you can actually stop the people shooting your upper plate and being able to pen. So yeah, it's kind of a happy medium between the two. And of course, if you can manage to get into a scenario like you see here, where you can face hug your opponents that are 2 tiers lower than you, then yeah, it's not particularly very fun for them. Now, game is going okay so far. We've managed to block 2000 damage, and for a World of Tanks console tank to be able to actually block damage with all of the accuracy improvements and everything that came along with Update 6.0 when it first got released. Obviously we're in Update 7.0 right now on console, or what, modern armor, whatever you want to call it. Basically that is the case. Now, we picked up 2800 damage nearly, well 2757 to be exact, and we've blocked 2k damage, which, yeah, like I said, doesn't happen very often. That's just because the accuracy buffs have allowed people to snipe every single part of the kind of tank that you're going to be coming up against. And of course with the penetration increases with RNG, so that you can high roll 25% on your penetration, but you can only low roll by 15%, but at the cost of only being able to high roll on damage by 15% and low rolling on damage by 25%. Obviously that's the RNG changes, we can't do much about them. I've highlighted to Wargaming that that is just a silly system and that it probably shouldn't be in the game, but of course that is only something we can highlight. We can't make any real changes, at least I can't personally, and so yeah, it's kind of one of those things where we'll just have to wait and see. Wargaming have said that they will be reviewing the RNG changes, and so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. As far as this game and how well it's gone so far, obviously we are in this kind of position. Of course it's the Kampinow map, which is a brand new console exclusive map that boasts basically an increased size of map. And that is basically all it is. I don't know what it's similar to. To be honest, there aren't very many maps that this is similar to. It's not like something like Desfall, where you could probably put it up to something like Kasserine, you know, some of those other different desert maps. This one really doesn't have very many competitors. I guess if you've ever played the Arctic region, but the variant where it was like Panama, it's kind of a bit like that, I guess. But yeah, I think that that's kind of the only comparison we can really make. Now, as far as this game, where are we taking our tank? Well, we need to press the opponents, and we also need to make sure that we make every single shot count, because we have a Waffle E100, and yes, on console it still has the 6-shot autoloader with 500 alpha, I believe, at least, unless they did actually nerf it, and I think they might have done actually now. But Anyway, moving on from that, let me know in the comment section down below if it did actually get nerfed. I can't quite remember myself. And yeah, what we're going to do now, put pressure on the Waffle E100 because we are in a superior position. He's got to be push aggressively towards us. We've actually got some degree of armor, that definitely doesn't. And so yeah, we can kind of be super aggressive. And what you do note here is that I did realise that actually the Baraska left me alone for a little bit. So he's gone off. But what we have got to think about, well, I just got spotted there and I'm pretty sure it wasn't the Waffle, so we put one into the Barask because that's kind of what you got to think about in a tank like this where you've got multiple tanks coming at you. And to be honest with you, I actually think that the Objects 279E is still super overpowered. It did get nerfed when it came onto console, so we will have that comparison to actually make to the PC version, which is just absolutely ridiculously broken, and there is no comparison you can really make between the two variants. This one pretty much can get penned by any tank if they fire premium and aim at the weakest unangled part of the upper hull. So I guess that's kind of the weak point, but then again, how many people actually decide to fire premium ammunition? It's not actually as many as you think on console comparatively to something like PC. Now of course we go for the HE round, and what? How we really? We hit the gun? Well, I guess we won't miss this one, but typical low rolls. Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. We had the HE round loaded there, but unfortunately we didn't manage to pen. And of course we do shut down the Waffle E100. But as with every single game, whether that be World of Tanks PC, whether that be World of Tanks console, yeah, there's always one or two tanks that are just completely overpowered. Now, what the keen-eyed of you might have actually spotted is that we actually are in a 1 versus 5 scenario. We've obviously taken out one tank already, meaning that we're in a 1 versus 4. So it's potentially on for a Kampinow medal with this game. Whether or not we actually get it is of course dependent on a few different scenarios. Of course there is still a Gorilla 15 on the enemy team, and of course as soon as we turn around the G-Saw comes around in the position that we were aiming at, and so yeah, a bit annoying. But there's not much we can do about it. Of course we need to put one shot into him at least in order for us to make it easier in the later half of the game. He's probably going to come back around for another little grazing run as we spot the Gorilla. Oh god, how much health? He is a one shot. Now it's time to get rid of him as quickly as possible. We take him out of the game, which means there's only 3 tanks left. Of course then the artillery, the most toxic mechanic in the game, manages to hit us and take a couple hundred of our hit points, and so now it is the case of we need to get back to the cap circle because there's only 2 minutes on the cap, and it's really crucial that we get to the cap circle before they manage to cap. And the G-Saw comes running around with his 900 hit points, and he manages to crash into the the wreck of the Waffle E100, which means that we need to get going. We need to start pushing because we need to get to the cap circle. If he's going to bugger off, we're going to have to keep on pushing and keep progressing down the flank and be able to get back to the cap circle to reset the cap, to have the potential to win this Kampinow game. And of course, you know, if we manage to get back to the cap, then it is going to be super fun. And of course, then it puts pressure on me to really actually carry this game super hard. We've picked up 6,157 damage already, which is fantastic. We've blocked 3,320 damage as well, which is something, like I said, doesn't really happen in World of Tanks console, and that's something I have noticed insanely with the Object 279 early. This one is just ridiculous, and yes, I could say it isn't overpowered, which, to be honest, if you come up against someone that actually knows what they're doing against this tank, it really doesn't have armor, it doesn't really have the attributes that you would associate it with on World of Tanks PC, but you know, you can still pull off bounces against people that don't know what they're doing against it. And of course, if you do get into a position where you can kind of hide the underside but also be able to put the kind of hull of the tank up in the air to increase the angle, and yeah, you can have some decent games. Now obviously we know we still have to keep moving towards the cap if we want to win this game. We put 1 into the G-Saw and set him on fire, which means that we can actually just focus on trying to get back to the cap. We've got 11 seconds and it's a Ragnarok 100% in the cap circle, and the last tank, the artillery, tries to hit us and we unfortunately don't make it back to the cap circle. So yeah, that was a very disappointing game at the end. I reckon I could have probably pulled off the win there. Unfortunately, we didn't actually manage to get the win. It was a close defeat. We did pull it back and we did manage to pick up a mastery badge. We also managed to pick up 5 enemies destroyed, 6,600 damage, which isn't a terrible game, don't get me wrong, in the Object 279E. We didn't get very many assistance points, unfortunately, but yeah, we did block 3,560 damage as well. And we managed to pick up 61k silver, which is kind of nice as well. So there we go, the first game in the Object 279E early, and we will be looking at another game in just a second. Right, so the next map, of course, is Mannheim, another console-exclusive large-scale map. Unfortunately, I guess they're not particularly my favourite maps within World of Tanks console, or PS4, or Xbox, whatever you want to call a game. There's so many different abbreviations of World of Tanks now that it's kind of just a bit silly, I think. You know, stick to one, keep it like that forever, and then, you know, it makes it easier for people to search. It also makes it easier for people to know what game they're actually trying to find out how to get better on. And yeah, I think that's something I would 100% try and make sure that I was good doing if I was wargaming myself. But of course I'm not, and we're going to have to, you know, deal with it at the moment. Now, this game was one of those that you just think, what on earth is actually going on? I managed to have just a ridiculous spurt within this game to be able to just carry, I guess, at some degree, but yeah, you'll just have to wait and see, and the point at which we managed to just bring home some sort of a victory within this game. Now, on this map, I tend to go up to this area if I am playing in a heavy tank. That's just because what we can do from this point is get a little bit of an advantage in being able to just put pressure on people that are below us. The only problem with this scenario is that if someone is straight ahead using the hill area in front of us, we're never going to be able to spot them. There's like a hill right at the back that can actually put some shots into us, and so yeah, we've got to be a little bit careful as to not get spotted. But yeah, you'll see that in just a second. What happens in a second is a round comes in from the hill, which you'll see me aiming at. There we go. Yeah, one round comes in. It was a meaty, chunky one as well, taking just under 700 hit points of our health, which is really annoying, you know, considering we probably should have I knew that could possibly happen, but yeah, I just still wanted to do it. Now, this game, although it may not be the highest damage game you've ever seen at tier 10, and certainly not the highest damage game you've ever seen in the Object 279E, it definitely feels like a win to me. And that's just because of the scenario at which we managed to actually pull out the bag from a game that I thought, oh god, I've absolutely been stumped here. I've just had an awful game, bringing it right the way back to think, you know what, I could actually win this game. In this position, it's kind of a bit, you'll see me kind of doddering around, not really knowing what to do. If I go up here, I can get hit by that hill like we did in the beginning, and I don't want that to happen again. So at this point, I need to make a move backwards nearer my team, because, you know, if you're all on your own, it's not going to be very nice for you. And so, yeah, that's why I'm pushing back and pushing away. What you did see there is 2 rounds come in from that area. I did try and blind fire, you know, it's probably unlikely. But what we can do now is use the wreck of this Object 268 to be able to just get hold down, which means that pretty much I am impenetrable from the most part, unless maybe Jaeger heat round is going to hit my cupola, or maybe hit the most unangled bit of my turret, which of course could happen. But then again, I don't think is a Jaeger firing at me, considering we've blocked 2 shots and we're at 1040 damage, which means that, you know, that's 520 alpha, which is whatever the tank is that could possibly do that within the game, but it's certainly not a Jaeger. Now, Chieftain Mark 6. It's time to put pressure on this side. Now, if we don't take this side aggressively, if we don't manage to actually put pressure on our opponents, then we're not going to be able to do very much. And so that is why we are taking the tank over here. Now, of course, we need to start aiming our shots. And yeah, I aim at the lower plate, but it hits the track, which is super annoying. And we really do need to put as much damage out onto these tanks as possible to get them out of the game as quickly as possible. Now, this Object 279E, he will take a major appearance in what happens next, and same with the Chieftain. They are 2 of the tanks that basically allow me to have a fantastic game, and you'll see exactly what I mean in a second. The Object 279E over there, as well as the Chieftain, are now pushing aggressively towards me. Chieftain actually didn't manage to pen me, which is really, really nice, and so we need to be aggressive. We need to get him out of the game as quickly as possible to be able to then deal with any opponents that decide to push aggressively again. Of course, you see me here auto-aiming if in a real world, and I wasn't super tired when I was playing because it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, we managed to put 1 and 2 into the Chieftain, being able to take him out, and now we of course have the KPZ-50T, which is that pretty darn good German medium slash heavy slash whatever you want to call it. It's like a German tier 9 430U, almost that. Like, yeah, it's just a fantastic tank overall. What we do need to do is put pressure on him though, because whilst he's trying to deal with us, we've also got all of the tanks to be able to come around. Now, we need to focus him, because it's very unlikely we're going to be able to full health the Object 279E early before we're going to be able to full health the KPZ, and if we can manage to full health the KPZ out of the game, then it means we have a better chance of dealing with the second opponent in the Object 279E. Now, this is the point of the battle where it just became crazy and apparent to me that, you know, it just the Object 279E could still be pretty broken in console. Of course, what you see me here doing is loading heat rounds, because I am not bouncing off the Object 279E whilst he is bouncing off me. That's probably because he's firing AP rounds as opposed to the heat rounds, and so yeah. What we do, however, is back up into these 2 tanks here that you see the dead 2 wrecks right next to me, so the Chieftain and also the KV4. Now what you see me doing is, instead of going for the 279E, once again, like I was saying, get out the guns out of the game so you can progress with just 1 tank at a time, and so we get the we get the KPZ out of the way, and now what we do is we push ourselves back up into the gap between the 2. We're then just putting damage out onto the Object 279E, who is bouncing off us, and we are not bouncing whatsoever against him. What you see me do here now is, of course, I can put rounds into the side of the tank, which is absolutely trash. And so yeah, he's basically now trying to retreat, which just isn't going to work. We're getting some weird kind of visuals within the sniper view there, which is unfortunate, but you know, we can't really do too much about that. And now it is time to take out the Object 279E, and just as I think we finally got a little bit of time to relax, nope, the Gorilla comes around, and now it's time for him to take a go at us. We put 1 into him, and I think, you know what, we could probably actually take the Gorilla here, depending on if we can get lucky. Of course, he needs to bounce 1 shot at least, and we put 1 into him, but unfortunately we make a mistake and we actually go side on, which was absolutely a shambles. We picked up 6,053 damage. We also blocked 2,000 damage as well, and so overall, I thought that this game was kind of, although we did lose, it just showed you that the armor model can work, and when you put it into a novel position, like we were, wedged in between the KV4 and the Chieftain, yeah, you can have some good games. And if you use the scenario to your advantage, like we did in this, you certainly will have good games. Now, of course, Object 279E, do you think it is broken? Have you got it on World of Tanks console for PS4 and Xbox One? And do you think, if you have played it on PC, that they are comparable? Would you rather have the PC version? Would you rather have the console version? Or would you rather avoid both of them and just play something else? Of course, let me know in the comment section down below, and if you wanted to check out more gameplay videos like this on my channel, they should be on screen right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.